This is Travis Bull Johnson. I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of Independence is Power. A little later than we planned on getting started this morning, a little bit of technical difficulties as I learn around how to put this all together, but I would like to thank everybody for joining us. Uh, First thing I want to talk about is our name. Independent is Power. Where did I get that? Why did we choose that name for this broadcast? I'm gonna start that off with a little story. I mean, I spent 20 years in the Army. After 20 years in the Army, I retired. We started our little homestead up here in Minnesota, kind of doing our own thing. One of the things I stopped and thought about when I was coming over here today was how do I explain independent as power? And I went back to my time in the Army. I mean, from the time I started in the Army and moved up the ranks, I always had a little bit of a say, but not really much. The overall mission of the Army really did their own thing, and we were expected to do what we had to support that mission. My unit, I mean, I may need to do something else, but if it didn't go straight in line with the overall mission, it got pushed to the back burner. Eventually, we might get to it, but it was real low on the priority list. That's kind of how I see junior members of Congress in a political party. They're a member of the party just like I was a member of the Army, but they don't really have a lot of influence on the party and where it's going. They pull their weight as a member of that party, but they really don't have much of a voice. Even if you're going up the ranks, as I went up the ranks, my voice got a little louder, but unless you're at the very top of that pyramid, you really didn't have a voice in the direction of what was being handled. When I decided to run for Congress, I didn't want that. I mean, I wanted something where I could represent the people, whether I would we can actually address our concerns. My fear with going as a member of a party is you go in there and we got our concerns here in Western Minnesota, and as we bring it up and we address it through the bigger caucus of the political party, that may not be the same vision as the leaders of the party have. And it gets drowned out. We may have issues where what's best for us is not necessarily fit in line with the party platform. Well, just like in the Army, I mean, you have to be disciplined in what you say. You cannot say things, even if it's better for our area, that's contrary to what the party wants or where the party is focused. You can't do anything that will distract from their vision. Now, compare that to what happened when I got out of the Army. One of the reasons I started a homestead, one of the reasons we are doing what we're doing here in civilian life is because I wanted to have a say. I wanted to control my own destiny. I wanted that ability to impact, make an impact, a direct impact. After 20 years of being told this is what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, it meant a lot for me to regain that sense of control, that sense of power over my own destiny. That's kind of how I see it running for Congress as an independent. We have more power over our own destiny. We actually have a say in what we do. Uh, we have a say in what we focus on. When you're just a junior member of Congress, your voice gets lost in the shuffle. When you're an independent, when you're the only independent, guess what? You have your own voice. It is no longer lost in the shuffle. For what I want you to think about for a moment is when we win our spot in Congress, when we go to Washington, D.C. as an independent, our voice will be loud. Everybody's going to want to hear what's going on with Western Minnesota. Everybody's going to want to hear what that independent voice has to say about what we need to do, how we help Western Minnesota. Being an independent, it makes it about us. It makes it about Western Minnesota. It doesn't make it about the party. It allows me to represent you. My loyalty is to you. It's not to a party which may or may not match what our needs and requirements are. It makes me answerable to the people and not to the party. One thing I got a kick out of is we had another gentleman here who was running for Congress as a Democrat. When he started to meet with some of the Democratic Party who was supporting his campaign, one of the things he was told is, "Hey, once we get you elected, or if we get you elected, we expect you to pull X amount of hours a day doing fundraising phone calls, and that's your priority at that time. So you will be doing that because we are getting you elected. You owe that to us. I don't want to owe anybody else. I don't want to have that divided loyalty of you're sending me to Congress, you're sending me to represent you for 24 hours a day, not 12 hours a day, and then the other 12 I owe to the party. That's not right. I mean, that just that sets me that that just doesn't seem right to me. An old saying is a man cannot have two masters. You cannot be loyal to the party and loyal to the constituents. My loyalty needs to be undivided. I need to be able to address our concerns regardless of what the party's platform is. I don't want to be drowned out by the party line. You're just one little soldier in a big party establishment. I want to work for you and not be fundraising. As an independent, I have that power. That is what independent is power means to me. That is what how it allows me to have in our area to have a bigger voice than it would be any other member of Congress. I mean, we have our own speaker. One of the big benefits of that is if y'all paid attention to politics last year or the year before, when Justin Amish, he left the Republican Party and became an independent. Once he did that, before you'd hear little bits of snippets about Justin Amish, but you wouldn't see all that much. Once he went libertarian, now you had a third point of view in Congress. You had your Republican side, you had your Democrat side, but you had the Justin Amish and Libertarian Party view. Every time you had a TV station or whatever that was trying to show the different points of view, it wasn't just a Republican or a Democrat talking point. I want to be able to go in there and give the independent talking point, give the Western Minnesota talking point. That is a power for Western Minnesota that we just won't have any other way. I mean, we're not the big city that everybody wants to worry about. We're Western Minnesota. I mean, we have our own identity. Why should we be mixed in and grouped in with everybody else? So that's where we come up with independent is power. It allows us to have our own voice. As I go through and I talk to different people throughout the district, that is kind of their one concern is they don't feel they have a voice. And honestly, I don't think if you elect a junior member of either party, that's going to change. You're still not going to have a voice. It is still going to be the big party voice. If we go independent, that will give you a voice. That will give us a voice that we just don't have. I want to be able to go there and I want to be able to focus on what some of my priorities are, what some of our priorities are. I want to work on making the government smaller so we can reduce our debt. I mean, our debt's killing us. $30 trillion it just topped. Higher than our GDP. They've always said that was a tipping point of when your debt was in trouble, is when it went over GDP. Well, guess what? We're there. It's not fair for us to keep on piling this onto our kids, our grandkids, and by now our great grandkids are going to have their share of the debt that we're building. That has to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is we got to start controlling our spending. Here in the United States, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. So that's what I think we need to address. And we do that by shrinking the government. And what happens when you shrink the government, it also goes to start restoring your freedoms. It starts going to restoring your liberties because the government's not big and powerful enough to impose its will on you. I'm a firm believer in one saying that the libertarians have, and that is good ideas don't require force. Force is the way the government basically enforces their will on us. If we take that ability away, we start reducing the size of these big departments. It starts to restore our freedoms again. And that's part of where I want to go. I want to be able to address veterans affairs and veteran suicides. That's a big point to me. I mean, I lose 22 of my brothers and sisters every day to suicide. That number hasn't really changed since the 1990s. Every web page you go to, for every politician running for Congress, running for federal office, every one of them has a page about veterans issues and what they're going to do. But do they ever do anything? There's always another priority. I talk to people all the time here in Western Minnesota. And when I start talking about veteran suicides and the number of people who knows a veteran who committed suicide is unbelievable. I mean, you look at our military, and it makes sense. I mean, our military is comprised very heavily of our people from the rural area. That's who joins our military a lot of times. So it makes sense that when you're in a rural area running for office, more people are going to know somebody who's been affected by this. We can't keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. We have to go in there with different ideas, fresh outlooks when we go to address veterans' suicides and veteran issues. And we got to make it a priority. It hasn't been. It's the other parties have other priorities. That's just not a priority that they feel will get people to the voting booths. So they don't push it. They say, yes, I do it because they know it's a popular stance to have. But then what do they do with it? They don't run with it. They don't push it. I also think, I mean, it's very important for us to end our participation in some of these endless foreign wars. The best thing you can do to help a combat veteran is to stop making them. We need to focus on that. We need to. One of the big talking points people have had over the last year and a half is be safe, stay home. I think that needs to be more of our foreign policy. Let's keep our troops home to defend us, not across the world defending everybody else. It's about time some of these other nations, including nations within NATO, start pulling their own weight and stop counting on us to do all the heavy lifting. I also want us to see us end the drug wars. One thing, if you look back at the federal government and the history of the United States, there's one thing we have never been able to do. We have never been able to effectively prohibit something. It just doesn't happen. We tried in the 20s with alcohol. What happened then? You had bootleggers. And what happened with those bootleggers? They made money. They built their own little fiefdoms. We see the same thing today with the drug war. By trying to eliminate it, have us being able to get through safe ways, we basically have fed the cartels who will still provide that product that people are looking for. We created the cartels with our trying to prohibit drugs, with our trying to prohibit marijuana. We made the cartels into what it is today. We've actually seen the same thing even with abortion. We try to outlaw abortion, and don't get me wrong, I am pro-life to the T. I mean, it's something I very strongly believe in. But passing a law saying we're not going to allow the abortion is not going to stop abortion. It's going to shove it underground. It's going to put it where people do it without the safety of medical professionals. We need to address why people think they need an abortion, why people believe that is their best option. That is how we stop abortion. That is how we are actually pro-life, not asking the government to use force to make this decision for somebody. Force shouldn't ever be the answer. And that's kind of the voice I want to put out there. I mean, there's so much to do. I mean, there's so much that impact that we can make as an independent. But we can go here and we can say, these are the issues we want to. These are our 4 issues or 3 or 4 issues that we want to see solved. And of course, being in Western Minnesota, I mean, I'm also very, very passionate about our ag program. I mean, that is kind of what we're known for. That is our identity for a certain point. Even though there is so many more things to Western Minnesota other than ag. That is always a top line priority we need to keep our eyes on. I mean, I was so frustrated last year. As some of y'all know, I have a small farm. I have a handful of cattle, some goats. We went through a nasty drought last year. I mean, and it really killed our ability for haying, our pastures, and so forth. Uh, One of the things I did in that time period is I actually had a meeting with Colin Peterson. Colin is he's a 15-term congressman who is from this district, and he was actually around when they created the CRP program. And one of the purposes of that CRP program was to have this feed source available to farmers that they can use in a time of drought, in a time where we were having problems with our own hay production. It would give us this emergency fallback. Well, as we're going through this drought, we weren't able to access it. We weren't able to access it because it had to be done after a certain date in order to allow ground nesting birds to flourish. Here in Minnesota, even a lot of the environmental groups were saying, let them hay the CRP. It's not going to be a game changer. It's not going to be a killer. We still have other avenues to protect these ground birds. Federal government wouldn't move for it. They wouldn't change. They wouldn't adapt. And when it finally came around to August 1st when we could hay it, the drought was so bad, it still limited our abilities. Whereas if we had done it 2-3 weeks earlier, we would have got a lot better hay for the amount of haying that we did. We need somebody in DC who will go up there and say, hey, this needs to change. The representatives or the Congress people from Minnesota, they got together and they wrote a letter to the Secretary of Ag saying, hey, can you do something about this? And he basically said no. Here's my issue. If you're a member of Congress, you're writing their budgets. You mean to tell me he won't answer your phone call? We need a leader. We don't need followers here. We need somebody who, when we have this problem on a local level, who will lead, who will be that independent, that loud voice going, hey, Chief, I'm going to work on your budget next year. Let's work something out here. Let's figure something out. There's no reason for us to be stuck in the middle of a political battle. Not when the people are hurting. So all of that's all why I want to run as an independent. That's why I think an independent is power. Is our ability to address all these issues. In order for this to happen, I need your help. I mean, I looked out at the quarterly financial reports from the FEC or the last year's numbers last night, and it boggles my mind. I mean, Michelle Fischbach has already raised $1 million. She spent $600,000 of it. Where? Who knows? I haven't seen any ads or anything like that, so I'm not real sure where they're spending that kind of money except on consultants. Democrats, they're anywhere between $50,000 to $70,000 they've raised so far. We're sitting right about 20, and you know what? I think we've gotten a lot more bang for our buck than anybody else has. But we do need your help. We do need your contributions. I respectfully ask that you go to bulljohnsonforcongress.us. Make a contribution if you can. Help us reach that next level. As much as I say independent is power, there are some things we need help on. But we need to band together as individuals to make that happen. I want to go ahead and thank you for all your support and all your help. Look forward to seeing y'all in future podcasts where we're going to have something where we can start taking some questions and we'll go forward. But thank you very much. Have a great day. This is Bull. Bye.